Toto Wolff claims they should have never let Hamilton go to Ferrari. Stay until the end to find out about the shocking last-minute offer Wolff made to Hamilton to keep him at Mercedes. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. Toto Wolff, a man known for his strategic brilliance, his calculated demeanor, and his ability to navigate the stormy waters of Formula One with an iron will, has been overheard in a private conversation that has sent shockwaves through the paddock. His voice, uncharacteristically tense, carried the weight of a realization so profound that even those closest to him have been left shaken. The mistake, the monumental error that Mercedes has made, is beginning to sink in. The consequences, the ramifications, the sheer gravity of their decision to let Lewis Hamilton slip through their fingers, are now unfolding before their very eyes. This is not just a tactical blunder, this is a catastrophic misjudgment that could alter the trajectory of the team for years to come. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. Inside the Mercedes garage, there is no longer an air of quiet confidence, no longer the belief that they can simply recalibrate and return to dominance. What was once a team operating with military precision is now a group grappling with uncertainty, self-doubt, and a gnawing sense of regret that grows stronger with each passing day. The departure of Hamilton was not merely the loss of a driver, it was the departure of a force of nature, an entity whose influence extended far beyond the cockpit. His relentless pursuit of perfection, his ability to galvanize those around him, his near-supernatural ability to extract performance from a car that, on paper, should not have been capable of winning, it was all part of the DNA that made Mercedes the behemoth it once was. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. And now, as the first murmurs of Hamilton's performance in a Ferrari begin to circulate, the regret is turning into something even more dangerous: fear. The reports from Maranello are beyond what anyone could have anticipated. Hamilton has stepped into the Ferrari with an ease that defies logic. There has been no period of acclimatization, no gradual adjustment to a new driving philosophy. He has simply arrived and imposed his will on the machine, bending it to his style with a mastery that is almost eerie in its execution. The engineers at Ferrari, veterans who have worked with some of the greatest names in the sport, are struggling to find words to describe what they are witnessing. They expected brilliance, they expected greatness, but what they are seeing is something beyond that, something bordering on mythological. Lap after lap, Hamilton is breaking barriers, pushing the car into a realm of performance that even the most optimistic minds at Ferrari had not envisioned. The telemetry is telling a story that is almost difficult to believe. His speed is not just superior, it is otherworldly. His ability to control the car at the absolute limit, his finesse in balancing aggression with precision, his near-surgical management of tire degradation, it is all culminating in lap times that are sending a chill through the rest of the paddock. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. Charles Leclerc, a driver celebrated for his raw speed and breathtaking one-lap ability, is finding himself in unfamiliar territory. For the first time in his Ferrari career, he is staring at data that tells him unequivocally that he is not the fastest driver in the garage. The comparisons are brutal, merciless. Hamilton is not just marginally quicker, he is systematically dismantling every previous benchmark, redefining what the car is capable of. And it is not just on single-lap pace where the difference is evident. In long runs, in race simulations, in high-fuel stints where consistency and tire preservation are paramount, Hamilton is proving why he is considered one of the most complete drivers in history. Meanwhile, at Red Bull, there is a growing unease. Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, who have spent the last few years basking in the dominance of Max Verstappen, are no longer as composed as they once were. The scenario they had hoped to avoid, the return of an unshackled resurgent Hamilton, has materialized before their very eyes. Verstappen, for all his talent, for all his raw, unfiltered speed, is now facing a challenge unlike any he has encountered before. This is not the Hamilton of 2021, the one who was locked in a season-long war under the constraints of a faltering Mercedes. This is a Hamilton who has found new energy, a new purpose, a new weapon at his disposal. Subscribe only if you want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship and be crowned as the greatest driver in history. Inside Red Bull, the realization is dawning that the upcoming season will not be the straightforward march to glory that many had predicted. Verstappen may still have the advantage in terms of machinery, but the margin is shrinking. If Ferrari has indeed delivered a car capable of challenging for the title, then the psychological battle that will unfold between Hamilton and Verstappen will be unlike anything the sport has seen before. This is not just about speed. This is about mentality, about endurance, about the ability to withstand the relentless pressure of a season-long war between two of the most formidable competitors in the history of motorsport. For Verstappen, the landscape has changed. For the past few seasons, his primary rival has been the stopwatch, his greatest challenge ensuring that he executed flawlessly in a car that was, more often than not, untouchable. But now he is about to be thrust into a fight that will demand everything from him. Not just raw pace, but strategic brilliance, mental resilience, and the ability to adapt under pressure. And as for Mercedes, the reckoning is coming. The team that once stood atop the sport with an iron grip now finds itself staring into the abyss. The car they have built for the upcoming season is already raising concerns. The same inconsistencies that plagued them in previous years persist. The same aerodynamic flaws, the same nervousness in high-speed corners, the same struggles with mechanical grip that Hamilton had so often compensated for with his sheer skill. But Hamilton is no longer there to mask those flaws. George Russell, while undoubtedly talented, is now facing a reality that is far harsher than he had imagined. Without Hamilton's presence, without his guidance, without his ability to drive development in a direction that extracted the maximum potential from the car, Mercedes is floundering. The engineers are running out of solutions, the team is running out of time, and Wolff is running out of answers. Ferrari, on the other hand, is preparing for something that has eluded them for far too long: dominance. Hamilton's arrival has transformed the entire operation, injecting a level of intensity and focus that has reignited the passion within Maranello. Every department, from aerodynamics to strategy to race execution, is operating at a level that had been missing for years. The mission is clear. The target is defined. They are not merely aiming to win, they are aiming to dismantle the Red Bull empire. And at the center of it all is Hamilton, a man who has nothing left to prove yet everything to fight for. The sport is on the brink of something extraordinary. A clash of titans, a battle that will be spoken about for generations. Hamilton, in scarlet red, leading the charge for Ferrari. Verstappen, defending his throne with all the fire and fury that has defined his career. Mercedes, reeling from the weight of their own miscalculation. The pieces are set. The story is unfolding. And for those who thought that the age of Hamilton was over, that his best days were behind him, that his chapter in the book of Formula One had reached its final pages, the next season is about to prove them wrong in the most spectacular way imaginable. Mercedes is crumbling under the weight of its own miscalculations, and the cracks in its once impenetrable armor are widening at an alarming rate. The departure of Lewis Hamilton was always going to send shockwaves through the organization, but what was expected to be a controlled transition has devolved into a full-blown existential crisis. The team, which had spent nearly a decade at the pinnacle of Formula One, now finds itself in a position of profound uncertainty. Those who once walked through the corridors of Brackley with unshakable confidence now carry a quiet but undeniable tension. The unthinkable is happening. Mercedes, the team that dominated with an iron grip, the team that struck fear into its rivals for years, is now staring into the abyss of potential mediocrity. At the heart of this unraveling situation is George Russell, the man who was supposed to inherit the throne, the driver who Mercedes had meticulously cultivated as the future leader of the team. The belief was that he would seamlessly step into Hamilton's shoes, that his raw speed and intelligence would be enough to sustain the team's competitiveness at the sharp end of the grid. But reality has proven far harsher than anyone anticipated. The burden of responsibility has landed on his shoulders with crushing force, and for the first time, doubts are being voiced, doubts that were once unmentionable within the team. Can he truly lead a team of Mercedes stature? Does he possess the mental resilience, the razor-sharp racecraft, and the relentless hunger that distinguishes the greats from the merely good? Or was Mercedes too hasty in assuming that he was ready to carry the team into the future? Within Brackley, these questions are not just being asked in hushed tones. They are dominating internal discussions at the highest levels. Engineers, strategists, and executives alike are beginning to question the assumptions they once held as gospel. The atmosphere, once filled with certainty, has been replaced by unease. Even those who championed Russell's rise are starting to waver. Some argue that he simply needs more time, that he will grow into the role. Others are less forgiving, pointing out that in a sport as ruthless as Formula One, there is no such thing as time. Either you deliver immediately, or you risk being swallowed by the competition. Toto Wolff, the architect of Mercedes' golden era, finds himself in the eye of the storm. For years, his leadership was unquestioned, his decisions rarely challenged. He was the mastermind behind Mercedes' dominance, the man who built the most successful team of the modern era. But now, the aura of invincibility surrounding him is fading. The decision not to fight harder to retain Hamilton, the choice to bet the future on a yet-to-be-proven Russell, the belief that Mercedes could maintain its status at the top without the driver who was its beating heart, all of it is now being scrutinized under an unforgiving microscope. Internally, Wolff is livid. Those who have interacted with him behind closed doors describe a man tormented by regret, a leader who realizes that he might have made one of the gravest miscalculations of his career. He is not just angry at himself but at those who advised him, those who convinced him that Hamilton's time was running out, that it was in the team's best interest to let him go rather than bend over backwards to retain him. At the time, it seemed like a pragmatic decision, a move designed to safeguard the team's long-term future. But the stark truth is now inescapable. Mercedes did not just lose a driver, it lost its most valuable asset, a competitor who lifted the entire organization, a leader whose mere presence elevated the entire operation. And the consequences of that decision are becoming more evident with each passing day. Red Bull remains the undisputed benchmark, its superiority as dominant as ever with Max Verstappen leading the charge. And to make matters worse, Ferrari is surging forward with renewed vigor, armed with an inspired Hamilton who seems more motivated than ever. While Mercedes grapples with its identity crisis, Ferrari is channeling its energy into maximizing its potential, fully aware that it now possesses a driver capable of bringing the team back to its former glory. In Maranello, there is belief, there is momentum, there is a clear direction. In Brackley, there is hesitation, second-guessing, and an increasing sense of panic. That panic has given birth to an idea, one that, just months ago, would have been dismissed as impossible, even laughable. But desperation breeds boldness, and now behind the scenes, Wolff and his closest advisors are plotting a move that could change the trajectory of the sport. Mercedes is preparing to do the unthinkable, attempt to bring Lewis Hamilton back. Not immediately, as his contract with Ferrari is watertight for 2025, but for 2026 and beyond, when the landscape of Formula One will shift once again with the introduction of new regulations. And to make it happen, they are prepared to offer an unprecedented deal, a financial package that would exceed 40 million euros per season, perhaps even more if that is what it takes. But money alone will not be enough. Hamilton is not just any driver, he is a man with options, a driver whose legacy is already cemented, a competitor who no longer needs to chase contracts but rather projects that align with his ambitions. Convincing him to return will require more than just a record-breaking salary. It will require a compelling vision, a guarantee that Mercedes will be in a position to fight for titles again. And right now, that is the greatest challenge of all. The team is not in the dominant position it once was, and no amount of financial incentive can change that overnight. The real question, the one that keeps Wolff awake at night, is whether Hamilton can even be tempted back. Ferrari has rolled out the red carpet for him, showering him with a kind of attention and reverence that he had not felt at Mercedes in years. At Maranello, he is not just another driver, he is their hope, their future, the man they believe can finally end their title drought. He is energized, reinvigorated, thriving in an environment that is built around him. Walking away from that to return to the team that let him go, that is a decision that cannot be taken lightly. Mercedes knows it is facing an uphill battle. It knows that regaining Hamilton's trust will require more than just words, more than just a lucrative contract. It will require action, proof that the team can build a car capable of fighting at the front once again. And that is where the real work begins. Behind the scenes, plans are being drawn, technical teams are being reshuffled, and an all-out effort is being made to ensure that when 2026 arrives, Mercedes is not just competitive but a genuine title contender. Because if they fail, if Russell does not rise to the occasion, if the team's next driver lineup does not deliver, if their performance continues to decline, then Mercedes will be staring at a reality they have never had to confront: irrelevance. The thought is unbearable, but the path back to the top is anything but guaranteed. What was once a team that dictated the terms of battle is now a team scrambling for solutions, searching for a way to reclaim the dominance that once seemed unshakable. And so, the pursuit of Hamilton begins. Not because it is easy, not because it is a certainty, but because Mercedes knows that without him, the future is far less certain. The pieces are being moved, the groundwork is being laid, and the biggest gamble in Mercedes' modern history is about to unfold. The question now is not whether they will try, but whether they will succeed. Hamilton finds himself at the most critical juncture of his career, a crossroads where every possible path is lined with both promise and peril. The weight of history, the relentless demands of competition, the hunger for an eighth world title, and the undeniable force of personal ambition all collide in a single life-defining decision. This is not just about switching teams. It is about shaping his final years in Formula One, about cementing his legacy in a way that transcends numbers and statistics, about choosing how he will be remembered long after he has hung up his helmet. Every detail matters, every scenario must be scrutinized, and every risk must be measured with the precision of a championship-winning strategist. The stakes could not be higher, and the repercussions of his choice will echo through the sport for generations to come. On one side, there is Ferrari, the most legendary name in motorsport, the team that embodies the very soul of Formula One. Wearing the iconic red suit, driving under the prancing horse emblem, standing before the sea of tifosi who live and breathe Ferrari with a passion unmatched by any other fanbase in the world. This is the kind of opportunity that only a select few have ever experienced. It is not just about winning a title, it is about restoring a fallen giant, about reclaiming the Scuderia's lost dominance, about etching his name alongside Schumacher, Lauda, Ascari, and the other immortals who defined entire eras of racing. Ferrari has not seen a driver crowned champion since 2007, an eternity in Formula One terms, a drought that has left a scar on the team's prestige. They have come close, they have flirted with success, but time and again, they have stumbled at the final hurdle. The allure of being the one who finally breaks that cycle, the driver who delivers what so many before him could not, is intoxicating. It is not just about personal glory, it is about redemption, about proving that Ferrari can still be the powerhouse it once was. And Hamilton would be the centerpiece of that resurrection, the man upon whom all hopes are pinned, the driver expected to lead them out of the darkness and into a new golden age. The challenge is immense, but so is the reward. If he wins with Ferrari, the triumph would eclipse all his previous achievements. It would be the kind of story that transcends sport, the kind of moment that defines careers, the kind of victory that elevates a champion into something far greater. The celebrations would be legendary, the praise unending, and his place in history unquestionable. No amount of money, no contract length, no technical detail could compare to the sheer magnitude of what it would mean to be the man who restored Ferrari's greatness. But the risks are equally daunting. Ferrari is a team that has long been plagued by inconsistency, a squad that has made costly mistakes at crucial moments. They have built fast cars, but not always reliable ones. They have hired world-class drivers, but not always supported them with faultless execution. The Scuderia is as unpredictable as it is iconic, capable of brilliance one weekend and disaster the next. The question Hamilton must ask himself is whether he believes he can be the force that changes that pattern, whether his experience, leadership, and influence can be enough to push Ferrari beyond its past failures and into a future of sustained success. On the other side of the equation stands Mercedes, the team that shaped him, the machine that carried him to 6 world championships, the organization that for years was the very definition of excellence in Formula One. There is comfort in familiarity, in knowing exactly how a team operates, in having relationships built on years of trust and mutual respect. Toto Wolff has made it clear that he believes Mercedes can rise again, that the 2026 regulation changes will mark the beginning of a new era in which the Silver Arrows will reclaim their throne. They have promised a revolutionary power unit, a groundbreaking design philosophy, a car built not just to compete, but to dominate. For Hamilton, returning to Mercedes would mean placing his faith in a long-term vision, in the belief that the team he helped build into a juggernaut can do it again. He would not have to worry about adjusting to a new environment, about fighting for influence within an unfamiliar structure. He would step back into a role he knows well, working with engineers he trusts, in a system that has proven itself time and again. The temptation of stability, of a project built around him, of a team that sees him not just as a driver but as a central pillar of their philosophy, is undeniably strong. But is it the right move? Would returning to Mercedes be a masterstroke of patience and strategy, or would it be a step backward, an admission that Ferrari's dream was ultimately unattainable? Could he afford to wait until 2026 for a resurgence that may or may not come? What if Red Bull continues to hold the upper hand? What if Ferrari finds the missing ingredient and moves ahead while he watches from the rearview mirror? These are questions that cannot be answered with certainty, risks that must be weighed with excruciating precision. The decision Hamilton faces is not just about machinery, personnel, or technical projections. It is about how he wants his story to end. If he stays with Ferrari and triumphs, he ascends to a level of greatness that few in history can match. If he stays and fails, He risks becoming another chapter in the Scuderia's long history of heartbreaks. If he returns to Mercedes and they succeed, he proves that his loyalty and patience were justified. If they do not, he closes his career wondering what might have been. No matter what he chooses, this moment will be dissected, debated, and analyzed for years to come. Every journalist, every pundit, every fan will have an opinion, and hindsight will either validate his choice or turn it into one of the great what-ifs of motorsport history. But in the end, the decision rests with him alone. No team principal, no engineer, no strategist can make this call for him. He must look at his own ambitions, his own beliefs, his own understanding of what he wants from the final years of his career, and decide. This is not just a contract. This is not just another season. This is the defining choice of a legend's career, a moment that will shape how his story is told long after the engines have gone silent. And whatever path he takes, the world will be watching, waiting, and ready to witness the next chapter of a saga that has already rewritten the history books. The air in the paddock is thick with an almost tangible tension, a static charge that clings to every conversation, every glance exchanged between team personnel, every hushed meeting behind closed doors. It's the kind of pressure that sits heavy on the shoulders of those who know what is at stake, the kind of anticipation that fuels sleepless nights for engineers, strategists, and drivers alike. The season has yet to officially commence, but the battle has already begun in the minds of those preparing to fight it. The war drums of Formula One have been beating for months, growing louder with every passing day, reverberating through the garages, shaking the foundations of even the most dominant teams. The pre-season tests have provided just enough information to ignite a firestorm of speculation, just enough raw data to send shockwaves through the established order. Ferrari has come out swinging with a machine that, for the first time in years, appears not just competitive but outright menacing. Their winter work has yielded a beast of a car, a creation honed to perfection in Maranello's wind tunnels, a finely sharpened blade designed with one clear purpose: to dismantle Red Bull's reign of supremacy. And at the helm of this scarlet missile stands Lewis Hamilton, a warrior with nothing left to prove yet everything still to fight for. A 7-time world champion who has already carved his name into history, but refuses to let that be the end of his story. He has made a career out of defying expectations, out of pushing beyond what seemed possible, out of thriving in the kind of high-pressure battles that reduce others to mere spectators. Now draped in Ferrari red, he carries with him not just his own ambition but the weight of an entire legacy, the hopes of a team that has waited too long for redemption. His lap times have sent a message as clear as daylight: Ferrari is not here to play a supporting role. They are here to shatter the status quo, to break through the dominance that Red Bull has built brick by brick, to take back what they believe is rightfully theirs. The stopwatch, impartial and unforgiving, does not deal in hope or hype, it simply tells the truth. And the truth is this: Hamilton and Ferrari have found something special. Something Red Bull must fear. Something that could tilt the balance of power in a sport where the smallest advantage can mean the difference between glory and despair. For the first time in years, Red Bull finds itself under siege. The fortress they have so meticulously constructed, the dynasty they have erected with ruthless efficiency, now stands at risk of being breached. Max Verstappen, the relentless force at the center of their empire, has never known fear in the cockpit, has never been one to flinch in the face of adversity. But this challenge is different. This is not a battle against a struggling Mercedes or a midfield team punching above its weight. This is Ferrari, an entity that carries within it the weight of history, the power of passion, the relentless drive of a team that refuses to accept anything less than absolute victory. Christian Horner, ever the calculating tactician, watches from his command post, his mind a battlefield of strategy, counter-strategy, and contingency plans. He knows better than anyone that dominance in Formula One is never eternal. Empires rise and fall in the blink of an eye, and staying on top is an art that demands constant reinvention. Red Bull's RB20 is still a masterpiece, still an engineering marvel, but for the first time in what feels like an eternity, they are being hunted. The data from Ferrari's long runs is too consistent to ignore, the tire degradation too well managed, the straight-line speed too competitive. Red Bull has thrived on being a step ahead, on playing chess while others play checkers, but now, the game has changed. And then there is Mercedes. A name once synonymous with untouchable dominance, now grappling with the reality of its own fall from grace. Toto Wolff stands at the helm of a ship battered by 2 years of miscalculations, of failed concepts, of unfulfilled potential. The W15 is their lifeline, the product of countless hours of re-engineering, of sleepless nights spent dissecting every flaw of its predecessor. The car is an enigma, a machine that holds promise yet still eludes full comprehension. It is fast, but is it fast enough? It is stable, but is it stable enough? The answers remain just out of reach, and time is slipping away. George Russell carries the burden of expectation on his shoulders. No longer the promising young talent waiting for his moment, he is now expected to deliver. The team needs him to rise, to lead, to push beyond the limitations of a car that still refuses to reveal its true potential. Every lap he turns is a search for answers, for signs of life, for something, anything, that suggests Mercedes can still be a contender rather than a fading giant watching from the sidelines. The world does not wait for fallen kings, and Mercedes knows that if they do not find a way back to the front soon, they risk becoming just another chapter in the history books rather than the ones writing them. The paddock is a pressure cooker, a battleground of whispered predictions, of nervous glances at data screens, of mechanics making last-minute adjustments with a kind of intensity reserved for life-or-death situations. The media scrambles for any morsel of insight, dissecting every frame of on-track footage, analyzing body language, searching for the slightest hint of who holds the upper hand. The fans, the heartbeat of this sport, can feel it too. The anticipation crackles through every conversation, every social media debate, every late-night discussion about what is to come. The great unknown of a new season is about to unfold, and this time, it feels different. This time, it feels like something seismic is on the horizon. And then there is the wild card. The unpredictable chaos that makes Formula One what it is. A single crash, a miscalculated strategy call, a moment of brilliance, a stroke of misfortune, it can all change the course of a championship in an instant. The drivers know this. The teams know this. They prepare for war with the understanding that control is an illusion, that no matter how perfectly they plan, fate always finds a way to intervene. The countdown to the first race is ticking away, each second bringing them closer to the moment when theory meets reality, when speculation is silenced by cold, hard racing. The engines will roar to life, the lights will go out, and the battle will commence. The air in the paddock is thick with expectation, with hope, with fear, with the unrelenting drive of those who refuse to settle for anything less than victory. The world is watching. The war is about to begin. And once it does, there will be no turning back. Mercedes, a name that once echoed with the authority of an unstoppable force, now finds itself teetering on the precipice of uncertainty, grappling with an unfamiliar and deeply unsettling reality. For nearly a decade, they were the gold standard, the indomitable juggernaut that dictated the pace, crushed opposition, and rewrote the definition of dominance. Race after race, season after season, they wielded power with an iron grip, transforming Formula One into their personal arena of triumph. And yet, as the 2025 season unfolds, the unthinkable has materialized. The Silver Arrows, the team that once inspired a sense of inevitability about their victories, are now clinging to relevance, their supremacy reduced to a distant memory, their struggles laid bare for the world to see. The W15, the machine that was meant to usher in a new chapter of resurgence, has instead become an enigma, a piece of engineering brilliance on paper yet frustratingly inconsistent on the tarmac. One weekend, it flashes moments of untapped potential, teasing the paddock with glimpses of what could be, offering hope that the ghosts of the past 2 seasons might finally be exorcised. The next, it is an unruly beast, unpredictable in behavior, refusing to cooperate, leaving even the most seasoned engineers staring at datasheets in dismay. The stopwatch, cold and unforgiving, tells the harsh truth. Red Bull continues to set the benchmark. Ferrari surges forward with renewed purpose, McLaren and Aston Martin lurk menacingly in the shadows, ready to pounce on any weakness. And in the midst of it all, Mercedes finds itself adrift, fighting a battle on multiple fronts, against their competitors, against their own car, against the relentless tide of time. Toto Wolff, the mastermind behind the empire that once seemed unshakable, now faces the most grueling test of his career. His leadership, once undisputed, is now scrutinized under an unforgiving microscope. Every decision he makes is a calculated risk with monumental consequences. Stay the course and continue refining the current philosophy, hoping that persistence will yield the breakthrough they so desperately need? Or abandon everything, take the nuclear option, and embark on an entirely new design concept, knowing that such a gamble could either resurrect the team or condemn them to an even deeper abyss. The weight of history rests upon his shoulders. One wrong move could relegate Mercedes to the role of a mere participant rather than a contender, a thought that would have been unthinkable just a few seasons ago. And then there is Lewis Hamilton. The seven-time world champion, the man who sculpted his legacy in the heart of the Mercedes dynasty, has made his move, a seismic decision that has sent shockwaves through the sport. The announcement reverberated like a thunderclap, shaking the foundations of the paddock. Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. It is not merely a driver switch. It is a tectonic shift in the landscape of Formula One. This is not just another contract, not just another chapter in an already legendary career. This is a statement, a declaration of war, a deliberate act of rewriting history. Ferrari, the sleeping giant that has spent years clawing its way back to the top, has placed its faith in a warrior who thrives in the heat of battle. And Hamilton, the ultimate competitor, knows exactly what is at stake. For years, he wrestled with a car that no longer reflected his greatness, dragging machinery beyond its limits, fighting battles he had no business winning. He endured frustration, setbacks, moments of crushing disappointment, all while watching Red Bull and Verstappen ascend to the throne he once occupied. But now, clad in Ferrari red, he is reborn. His eyes burn with an intensity not seen in years. His voice carries a new hunger. This is not a man content with fading into the twilight of his career. This is a gladiator, stepping onto the battlefield with unfinished business, with a point to prove, with a legacy to cement. The paddock is a cauldron of tension, a storm waiting to erupt. Every race weekend, the air crackles with anticipation. Every practice session is dissected, every telemetry data point analyzed, every whisper in the garage turned into a headline. The media devours the spectacle, amplifying every narrative, feeding the insatiable hunger of a global audience. Will Red Bull unleash another masterstroke of technical innovation, pushing the limits of the rulebook in pursuit of continued supremacy? Can Ferrari, so often the architects of their own misfortune, hold their nerve when the moment of reckoning arrives? And what of Mercedes? Will they discover a miracle in the depths of their research, or will they watch powerless as the empire they built crumbles before their eyes? But beyond the rivalries, beyond the strategies and engineering battles, there remains the one unpredictable, uncontrollable element that makes Formula One the most electrifying spectacle in motorsport: chaos. This is a sport where nothing is guaranteed, where fortunes shift in the blink of an eye, where a single miscalculation can alter the course of history. A mistimed pit stop, a poorly executed strategy, a moment of sheer brilliance or catastrophic misjudgment, everything hangs in the balance, teetering on the edge of the unknown. The engines roar, the grid forms, the lights flicker. The world holds its breath. And when the lights go out, the battle begins. There will be no mercy, no hesitation, no second chances. Only the relentless pursuit of glory, the ruthless quest for supremacy, the unforgiving nature of a sport that rewards only the bold, the brilliant, the unbreakable. This is Formula One at its purest. This is where legends are made. And when the dust settles, when the echoes of engines fade into the night, only one name will stand above the rest.